All right, so I'm gonna give a pretty extensive walkthrough of my current, the current version of my, I don't even know what to call it. It's like a three-part system. It's part of my operations pipeline. As you can see here, hopefully it loads in. My internet had to get switched over. All right, so this is my opportunities pipeline. So I have a number of scenarios. I numbered them all. But this part of the scenario, what it's doing is I'm going to fill out a form, and I'm filling it out myself. And upon submission of this form, which let me show you, it's right here. I call it my proposal and contract generator. And as you can see, the purpose of the form is to create and send a personalized proposal document for a given project, schedule the next meeting, and update the opportunity in the CRM. So when should this form be submitted? I typically do this during the discovery call with the prospect so that they can have the proposal in hand before we even finish the call. So very powerful system, very powerful tool. So yeah, I'll fill this thing out, and upon submission, what's going to happen is it's going to create a new proposal based off one of my templates. I have a number of them. So it depends on how I fill the form out. It will dictate which template to work off. There's a bunch of variables here. As you can see, service fee, deposit percentage, initial deposit, blah, blah, blah. There's a bunch of different variables here that's going to be automatically filled through the automation. It's going to create them a contract, a signable contract, again, based on another template. Here's an example. This is a demo. And it will also create a invoice. I can't show you. Oh, I can. Yeah. I think I had it open here. I just want to show you all this stuff on the front before we get into it, so you can just get an idea of how it works. So if I go here to the hosted invoice URL, we should be able to see it. And this is through Stripe. There you go. So this is the invoice. Cool. So that's what is going to happen through the submission of a single form. Now, again, this is my current version. It's pretty complicated, honestly, kind of all over the place. My hope and my intention is to consolidate basically this entire system into a single system, that being fill out forms with Airtable as my backend, which I'm already using Airtable as a backend database. So it connects with that perfectly fine. So that's the goal. That's going to be the next version of this system. It's going to make it significantly more streamlined and also increase just the user experience for both myself and my prospects. So let's walk you through how this thing works. So this is a pretty big scenario, as you can imagine, as you can see. Don't let it dawn too. It's basically the same route thing. The top route and the bottom route are the same thing. It's just the bottom is if it's an Upwork prospect, because I tend to do some work on Upwork. So if they are an Upwork project, it will go down this bottom route. If not, it'll go to the top route. So I'm going to go to the top route. This is what I use for the testing purposes. So again, I submitted the form. I got all the data, and the field data has been caught. And we're going to do, I'll just walk you through the entire system, node by node. So it's been submitted. Is it an Upwork project? Yes or no? If no, it's going to go this route. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to try and find this record, the individual, the contact record, the prospect. It's going to search through my CRM, which is Copper, to find somebody based on the email address, and it's going to find them because it's an existing contact at this point. In the pipeline, at this point, it's an existing individual. Then it's going to get the opportunity. So at this point, again, an opportunity has been created for this contact record. And then we're going to use artificial intelligence to do three different things. We're going to take the problem statement that I put on the form. So as you can see here, I have a page here. So I have it, problem and solution. So what is their problem? What is our solution? So again, on the call with the individual, I am jotting down notes and just kind of spitballing what their problem is as we continue the conversation. And then during the conversation as well, I kind of like figure out what the solution is going to be for their problem, and I just jot it down here. And again, it doesn't have to be super perfect. AI is going to make it better, obviously. So it's just kind of just word vomiting to the best of your ability, being as detailed as possible, not worrying about spelling errors or all that nonsense. AI is going to do a great job at fixing that where it's needed. So it's going to rewrite the problem statement and rewrite the solution statement so it sounds significantly better and is structured the way we want it to be on the proposal. And then the third part is it's going to create a opportunity name, because at this point, the opportunity name, like the actual title or name of the opportunity record in my CRM, is very simple. It's just like the name of the individual and the name of their company. So granted, we want to make this, more identifiable. So we're going to use AI and take the solution statement and have it generate a opportunity name based off the solution statement, and it's going to be optimized for my CRM specifically. That meaning like the overall character length. that's, secondary. It depends on your system. Then what we're going to do is we're going to, create a folder in Google Drive, because I use Google Drive as a, just an area a cloud storage to store all of my data for my clients as a backup apart from my CRM. So I have a specific folder called CRM, and then I'm going to create a folder for that individual. So as you can see here, we're going to find the parent folder, which the parent folder in this case, I believe it wasn't found. I can't remember. Either way, we're going to create a folder for them, right? I think that the folder was already created in a different scenario, an earlier scenario. That's why we're going to find that folder. And it's basically just the name of the company. So we're going to find that folder, and we're going to create a new folder in that folder. So a subfolder with the name of the opportunity. So the result from this AI is going to be the name of this folder, so that there's a clear identification of what this folder represents. It's an opportunity, and it's this project, right? So test company is the company I'm working with, and here's the name of the folder that was created for them. AI report summarizer, dynamic template generator, plus cheese score integration, blah, blah, blah. It's obviously going to be different for every single project, but that's what that does. And then what we're going to do is we're going to create a opportunity. Now, thinking about that, now that I think about it, I'm not sure what this guy's for. CRM opportunity name. Don't quite recall what's going on there. I think I might have been thinking of something else in the past. That might just need to be deleted. That's irrelevant. I'm not sure why that's there. So ignore that. Sorry about that. I forgot. I didn't even realize that being there. It's been working perfectly fine with that node being there, so I don't know why it's there. Anyways, we're creating a new opportunity for this individual, and it's based on the name of the that was created by the AI. So we're going to create an opportunity record. Cool. And now we're going to go one of three routes, and these routes are personal to me. It's not going to be the same for everybody, but I have three major services that I offer. I offer automation, website design and development, and web applications. So depending on which type of project it is, it's going to route to that, that route, of course, that branch. So in this scenario, I did an automation project. So it's going to route to this one, automation. As you can see, the filter is what kind of project is this? It's a field in my form. If it's equal to automation, it's going to go this route. So what we're going to do is we're essentially going to create a presentation from a template. So I already have a template, as I showed you guys earlier. This is my template. I'm going to essentially make a copy of this template and dynamically fill in all the data based on what was put into the form. So long story short, this is what it would look like at the end. Instead of, for example, if we go all the way to the top, custom automation, the year, for example, the client first name, last name, company name, it'll end up being like 2025, prepared for, the name of the person and the name of the company. And so it'll do that for every single page, of course. And then we'll download it so that we can actually just use it later on in the scenario. And then we're going to go on to the contract. And I use a tool called esignatures.com. Fantastic tools, no subscription. It's $1 per invoice you send. So pay for usage is fantastic. I love it. So I'm going to do the same thing with the proposal, same concept. I have a template in my library, and I'm going to essentially make a new document, a new contract based off this template. And if I go here, you can see all the variables again, client name, client organization, everything highlighted in green. Those are all variables that are going to be replaced. Cool. So we do that. And then we move to a sub scenario where I create a invoice for this project. And the reason I do this is because, well, you'll see here, there's quite a few nodes to create the scenario invoice. So I'd rather just do it separately and then bring the output from this scenario back into the other one. It's just a little bit easier to organize personally. So let's go over to this one. So it starts the scenario basically from this one. So this is going to call a sub scenario. It's calling this sub scenario, and it's going to start it. And this node essentially is sending data from this scenario to the other one. So I'm sending all of this data and catching it here where I need it, and then using it. So the first part is to calculate the invoice line items. So personally, I use Stripe. Most people use Stripe. Fantastic. But as you may know, Stripe has a processing fee, 2.9% plus 30 cents with every transaction. It's not huge, but it could be annoying. So I personally just compensate for that, and I use AI to do the calculations for me dynamically. So I have this AI that will simply examine what the line items from what I'm feeding it from the form, and it will calculate the processing fee and create a JSON, which will look like this. It'll look like the subtotal, what the processing fee line item should be, and the total invoice amount. So obviously just the sum of these two. And then it'll give me an array of all of the line items. So the name, the unit price, the quantity, and the amount. And this is very useful. We're going to need it later because with Stripe's API, the way it works making invoices, you need to have an invoice is a compilation of line items. So if you're having multiple things, in my case, I have an initial deposit and a processing fee. Those are two separate line items. We need to have them as separate entities. So that's what's being done here. It's calculating that, giving me the output in JSON. I parse it using a parse JSON node, feed that to an iterator, which is just going to essentially, iterate the values, the line items, which in this case there's two. And then we're going to go ahead and list customers to try and see if this customer exists in my database, in my Stripe. If they do or they don't, it'll go one of two routes. So let's say they do exist, like we did in this example. Then we're going to use another iterator to, iterate through those line items like we said. And sorry, I made a mistake. This was an aggregator, not an iterator, because we're taking the array. As you can see here, the array of aggregators, there's two collections. We need to be able to iterate through that. So we use an array aggregator to do so. And then we catch that back here in the iterator, and we're mapping the array from the aggregator. As you can see, if I highlight this, you're going to see it starts pulsing. That means you're referring to that node. So we're going to iterate the line items, which in this case, again, there are two. That's why you can see here in the operation count, there's a number 2 because there were 2 line items. That's what was fed. And there's 2 operations, one for each line item. The first one is the invoice, the initial deposit, which is 500. It says 50,000, as you can see, but that's because the Stripe API works based on cents, not dollars. So it's just a simple calculation. You multiply everything by 100, or divide by 100. Sorry, I can't remember at this point, but yeah, there we go. Unit price times 100. So whatever I'm putting in $500. But in reality, if I were to put 500 into Stripe, it would think it's 500 cents. So as you can imagine, that's not the accurate number. So every number we put into, every dollar amount we put into Stripe needs to be multiplied by 100. That's why we're using this formula. Unit price multiplied 100. Cool. It does that every time, as many times as the iterator is iterating. And it's, in this case, again, it's 2. And I have a filter here, very important, to only allow for the scenario to continue once all the bundles have been processed. So essentially the filter works like this. The total number of bundles, as you can see here, so there's 2 bundles. We're iterating 2 bundles, in other words, 2 line items. We want to only proceed the rest of the scenario once all of the bundles have been processed. So make.com outputs what's called a bundle order position and a total number of bundles. This is fantastic. You need this to be able to do this kind of logic. So in this case, there's the total number of bundles we're working with are 2. The first one is number 1. The second one is number 2. So then what this filter essentially does is we want the total number of bundles to be equal to whatever this bundle number is in its sequential processing order. So essentially the first bundle was processed. The total number of bundles is 2. And this bundle is 1. So it's not complete yet because 2 is not equal to 1. The second one then triggers, and it's, again, there's still only 2 bundles. And this bundle is specifically number 2. So the total and this number is equal to each other. Therefore, we're good to go. And it proceeds. Fantastic stuff. Very simple, but it is all kind of complex too. But it's really, really nice. So then after we've done that, we've created all the line items. We're going to create an invoice based off all of these line items. And the way it works, again, is the way that Stripe's API functions is it will essentially, there's a tick, something you can turn on, which will essentially take all of the outstanding line items that haven't been processed yet and combine that into one invoice. That's what we're doing here. So we're taking all the line items and using those items into a single invoice. And then we're going to finalize that invoice because it's a draft here. We're going to finalize that invoice, convert it into a finalized invoice, exactly how that sounds. And we're going to send data back to the other original scenario that called this one. And we're going to send the invoice ID, the invoice PDF URL, and the hosted invoice URL. This is just an actual web page like I showed you guys earlier. Awesome. So that is returning the output from this scenario back to the original one. So we're back here. We're done. The automation continues. So now we're going to update the opportunity that we just created right here. And essentially what we're updating is very simple. We're just adding the data from this node. So we want to save the invoice ID, the invoice URL, and the invoice PDF, yada, 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 and the contract details, the ID and the name. So I want to save all of that to this opportunity records custom field. So it's all consolidated into one place because we're going to need it later. And obviously just to have everything organized, obviously. Cool, we're almost done. And then we go to whether or not the phone exists. This is 100% optional. I like to notify my prospects and contacts with text messages because I think it's significantly higher open rates. So what I do is if the contact record has a phone number attached to them, what I'm going to do is I'm going to text them using open phone. And this AI is very simple. It's just formatting the phone number to make sure that it matches the format that open phone requires. Open phone specifically requires the area code and the plus symbol. So I'm just making sure that the number gets formatted accordingly so there's no stupid errors. And then we're texting the individual very simply, hey, first name, your project proposal and contract are ready for review. Please check your email, Otis from VENTR. And so we're sending them an email. And then these last two nodes is just if they are an Upwork contact with now that I'm actually going through this whole thing, it technically doesn't make sense because we have a whole route for Upwork. So I'm going to go ahead and just delete these. They don't make sense. But yeah, that's how that works. And then obviously theoretically down the line, once the contract is signed, we're going to start a new scenario. And what we're doing here is we're just watching for contracts being signed. We're excluding myself as a signer because e-signatures will essentially do this for each person that's signing. I don't want to be included in that because that's irrelevant. I'm automatically going to be signing this just through the automation. So I don't need to be including myself in this scenario. So I'm excluding myself with this filter, do not equal my name. And I want to find the opportunity. And the way that I'm finding the opportunity is by the metadata. So if we go back to the original scenario, when I'm creating this contract, I am specifically adding metadata because we're going to need this in order to map things later on. So what we're mapping the metadata as is, I believe, the output from the create opportunity name. So whatever this produces, which in this case is this whole thing, that's the title of the opportunity in my CRM. It's also going to be part of the metadata of the contract. That way, when I go to the contract signed scenario, it's going to search for an opportunity and it's going to find the correct one because the metadata from my contract has the name of the opportunity and it's going to be an exact match. So we're going to get the exact opportunity. And once a match is found, so I have a filter here to make sure that it only proceeds if the match is found, which 9 out of 10 times it will be found if I'm using the system correctly. And then it's going to get the custom fields. Now, I will be honest, Copper and the way they use custom fields is very annoying in the API. So I had to do a bunch of stupid workarounds, but essentially I'm going to go through the custom fields and try to find the invoice ID field. So I had to find out what the ID is for that custom field. It may not be the issue with you. Don't worry about that. It's just a workaround I have to do for my system. Very annoying, which is another reason why I want to use Airtable. It will significantly make this easier. But I'm going to find the invoice ID custom field and get that invoice based on its ID. So it's going to get the ID. I'm going to get that invoice. In other words, I'm going to retrieve that invoice. I'm going to download that invoice as a PDF because remember, as you can remember earlier, there is an invoice PDF URL. I'm going to use that from this invoice, download that as a PDF so I can add that as an attachment to the email. I'm going to get the contact, the individual from my CRM. I'm going to log the activity. So because they signed it, so I want to make sure that I log that activity inside of my CRM record. And then I'm going to send them an email asking them, hey, this reflects the project scope and timeline we've agreed upon together. Here's the invoice, blah, blah, blah. Essentially requesting them to, pay the invoice. Your invoice is ready. And they're going to get an email with not only the URL so they can access it via web, but it will also be attached as a file. As you can see here, I'm attachments. I'm item 1 file, HTTP get a file. So I'm grabbing the output, in other words, the file that is downloaded here and attaching that as an actual attachment to the email. And then I'm doing the same thing from earlier. If there's a phone number that exists, I'm going to text them a notification saying, hey, we just sent you an invoice, check your email. Yeah. And then the last piece of the puzzle would essentially be once the invoice is officially paid, we're just watching for that and updating the opportunity record accordingly and moving them to my projects pipeline as opposed to them staying in the opportunities pipeline. Whew, how's a mouthful? All right, so that's how that works. It is fantastic. It works very well. It's very reliable. Granted that I follow my system correctly. But yeah, my intention is to consolidate that entire portion of this system into Fillout and Airtable so that it will be significantly simpler, a lot less needing to communicate from one tool to the other. Airtable will be the single source of truth. And Fillout will be able to dynamically pull data, pre-fetch data from Airtable so that things are 100% correct. It's never going to be inaccurate because the data that you can use is only what exists in Airtable. So great stuff. That's how the system works in a nutshell. It's very reliable. I love it. Love it. It saves a lot of time. Here's an end result of the proposal. The problem statement. It's nice. Looks great. Solution statement. Awesome. Timeline, all that is static. All the pricing gets adjusted dynamically. Subtotal, initial deposit, total due now, total due later, blah, blah, blah. Platform fees, everything gets dynamically imported. So it's awesome stuff, guys. If you have any questions or concerns as to how this system works, drop a comment down below. Feel free to reach out and I'll do my best to answer them accordingly. God bless you guys. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks, guys.